Oh, hi. I've been hanging out in this shelter we built back when it was snowing. But I'm getting tired of eating pond plants, so maybe it's time for another one of our at-home series about finding things you can eat in your yard. Let's go. It's the beginning of spring, very early into May, so we are going to head out and look for two different types of plants. We're going to be looking for ramps, which are also known as wild leeks. You may hear me use both. And we're going to be looking for violets. We'll start off looking for the ramps. Starting in wet areas, they tend to like being near streams or in swampy areas, so we'll start there.
All right, so we found some here, but this is what you're probably not going to want to harvest. This has just one little guy here, but this is the plant that we're looking for. If we want to kind of harvest them sustainably, we're going to want to find an area that has a lot more and then only take some of them. Just taking one in an area where there is only one seems like not really my jam. So we're going to leave this guy, but this is the plant that we are looking for in the long term. All right, so we found a pretty good kind of collection of them here, running up and down this little stream here. There's lots of them. This is probably what we're going to look for in terms of trying to find a good batch to sustainably harvest from, because we don't want to over-harvest any of this. We want to make sure we're leaving probably about half of them so they can kind of regenerate for next year. This is what they're going to look like. One of the other characteristics that you can check to see is if you take the leaf and you hold it underwater, it kind of looks jewelly. It kind of gets silvery and shiny is another good identification for it. A lot of times they will be around water. They'll be in kind of swampy or wet areas in general. When you dig them up, they kind of have a root base attached to them, and what you're going to actually eat is probably from about here up to the leaves. So you can take this root base and snap off this root base like that, and then you kind of get these, which are the part that you're going to process and eat. Some people will use mostly the bottom part, but the whole thing is edible. I actually made soup where you just chop up the whole thing and you boil it down and it makes a good stock. Native people in the area, well, even if you get down into like the Cherokee, down farther south, would use this as a poultice for bee stings. You can use it they'd use it for coughs, and a lot of the early settlers in the area would actually use it as one of the first spring food that you could find in the wilderness around here. So this little kind of edge here, this kind of, get a little bit of film on the outside. Sometimes that can harbor a lot of dirt that hides in there, and then also you might want to check in between the leaves right in here, that can also have some soil or mud get caught in there too. If you clean those parts off and take off the roots there, you should be pretty good and make sure that there isn't earth or soil hiding in there to contaminate what you're cooking. This is a really pretty one, actually. One of the only plants you have to be careful of not confusing it for while you are harvesting is false hellebore. False hellebore has a lot more ribbing on its leaves. Its leaves also kind of come out at various points along the stem instead of with the ramp here. It comes out at about the same spot, all the leaves. So it's pretty good. And as I said, this is one that you do not want to eat because it is poisonous. So we have another spring edible here. We have violets. Now there's a few different types of violets. There's African violets, which is not at all what we're going to be talking about. There are European violets, and then there's North American violets, blue violets. The sweet violets are the European violets. Now what we have here are North American violets. So the blue violets. We have a few different kinds here. You can find these kind of in your yard. You can find them on the edge of fields. You can find them lots of different places. They tend to like a little bit of shade, but not too much. But the flowers and the greens on these are edible. This is going to be a food resource that you can utilize as well. The leaves can be used in stir fries. The leaves can just be put into salads. I really like using the flowers themselves as garnishes on salad. It's just kind of pretty. There's a little pouch in the back, and the pouch has a lot of nectar on them. So even just eating it, just kind of nipping that little pouch that has the nectar in the plant, and eating the flower itself is pretty good. But as I said, they're very pretty, so they make good garnishes on salad as well. Alright, so we've got some of our leeks here. There's some more in the bag. First thing we want to do is clean them off. We talked about this when we were outside a little bit. You want to make sure you get all the dirt and kind of bits and pieces, sticks and plant matter and soil and stuff off of them, because they'll create grit in whatever you make. You want to make sure you get that off. We're also taking off the roots off of here, which can just kind of get snapped off, and the rest kind of gets washed off. As I said before, you can eat the tops and the bottoms of these. You just want to stop at the roots. There's not much in the roots for you. So that can get tossed. But the rest of these are all going to get chopped up to be processed to put into stir fry.
So we're going to be using both plants in this, both the leaves from the violets and the ramps themselves. The ramps are going to get used earlier, though, in the cooking process. So on the stove, there's a pan with about 2 cups of water, 1.5 cups of water. Also has some butter, ginger, garlic, white pepper, soy sauce, and some wild hen of the woods mushrooms that I collected last year. And so that's going to be on the pan on like a medium-high heat, and we're going to start to kind of meld those flavors together. Now, once it gets to the point where it has reached a boil, you're going to add in your ramps. Now, the point of this is we want the ramps to go in early and get into all that kind of soupy broth that we're making there, because it's going to imbue the broth with a lot of that oniony kind of chive flavor that the ramps have. We really want to cook that down too. So you want to really make sure you're getting all that flavor into the broth that's there. Now, this broth is eventually going to get cooked down, but we're going to let that kind of sit on the stove for a while. After that, we're going to cut up our violets, and our violets are going to be added towards the end. After everything is kind of melded together in the broth, what you're going to do is add in some rice noodles. These rice noodles will not only absorb the kind of flavor that you have in the broth, but will also kind of absorb more of the liquid. They get in there, and then you kind of want to cook down a lot of that liquid that's in there. Once it's all cooked down, then you can add your violets. You don't want to add them too late into the process because they'll be a little bit different in terms of texture more than maybe you want. But you don't want to add them too early, because what will end up happening is they'll cook down to nothing, and you really don't want to have them cook down to nothing. So you want to make sure that they kind of keep a little bit of their own feeling and their own flavor in what you're making. Now, when you're done, you will end up with a nice kind of mixture of everything together. There's a few other really simple ways that you could really showcase something like ramps too. You can use it fresh by just taking it and dicing it really finely and then mixing it with maybe some olive oil and some of your favorite seasonings. And then you can use that as kind of a dip or a spread, or maybe something to marinate meat in. But you can also do things like taking it and preserving it. You could have it pickled or candied. So there's a lot of different ways to use it that really can showcase just the ramps themselves too.
Thanks for hanging out with us for a while. I hope you enjoyed your time here. Maybe you made some yourself, or maybe you are inspired to go hunting on your own. So hopefully we'll see you later this week for another video.